listening to Filling the Storehouse podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Stuart. And we want to walk with you on the journey to living the abundant life through faith, family, and freedom. Our goal is to refine our why while helping you find yours. Together, achieve our best and highest purpose. In the end, we'll drive each other to intentionally fill our storehouse.
There's more potential today than at any point in history, and there are more self-help resources, parenting books, phones with unlimited capacity, and literal libraries at our fingertips, too. And we also have more quote-unquote friends, connections, followers, or whatever you want to call the photographs staring back at us through the screen than ever before in history. Yet every single day, we miss another opportunity to turn all that potential into kinetic action that drives us towards our highest and best. And we are lonelier than ever before.
Yeah, man. When we analyzed our own lives, we realized that we needed more fellowship, more connectedness, more community, like real friends, not just like our Facebook friends. And we're surrounded by an amazing network. Like we have an amazing group of men and women that are in our lives, but we still desired to be a part of a thriving community. So we knew other men felt the same way.
And with that gap that we identified, the Storehouse Mastermind was born, and we built a community of men striving to become the best husbands, the best fathers, friends, and leaders possible. And the best part is that in this mastermind, you'll be significantly challenged by the curriculum, but even more so by the exceptional group of amazing men walking with you on your journey.
Yeah, so go to our new website, storehouse310.com. There's a mastermind tab on there. Go to that immediately. Click the join now button. And we look forward to having you in the Storehouse Mastermind to grow and serve together. All right. I'm just going to start off this. I'm just going to get it out. Go Navy, beat Army. Just saying.
Go Navy, beat Army.
Beat
Navy. Go Navy, beat Army.
I'm outnumbered here, but it's
you are outnumbered. And yeah, that's why we had you on, just so we can make fun of Army all day long. So
podcast over.
Podcast complete.
Podcast over.
Filling the Storehouse podcast.
I feel obligated to ask the age-old joke, but what do all Naval Academy and Westpoint grads have in common?
I'm not sure.
We all got accepted to Westpoint.
Fair enough. I
think
I've heard the opposite of that joke before too.
Yeah, but, probably.
Yeah, we had
Mike Capirio. If you're listening, that was for you, buddy.
Yeah, I think he asked that on the podcast when he was a guest, right?
I think so.
Well, Andrew, man, great to have you. All joking aside, it's always good to have another Service Academy grad on the podcast. We're all performing and doing the same mission at the end of the day. So I appreciate you, man. Definitely want to get into your story, your background for our listeners, if you could just give a little bit about who you are, where you came from, and what you're doing.
Sure. Andrew Dorazio. I grew up in New York, suburbs of New York City, about 25 miles north of New York City, and then grew up kind of with like a little bit of an entrepreneurial mindset. I always loved real estate. My dad kind of got me into it at a young age, just at least understanding some basic concepts. And I started a landscaping company when I was like in 8th grade, and it turned out to be a pretty decent sized operation by the time I got out of high school. And oddly enough, I was debating whether to keep that going or go to college. So those are like my two two thought paths at the time, and had gotten accepted into Westpoint. And oddly, it took a lot of like talking into to accept it. But eventually I came to my senses, and I didn't apply to the Naval Academy, just so you guys know, but I'm not sure how that would have went. I'm not a big swimmer. But I decided that, going to Westpoint was the right choice for me. So I gave my landscaping company to my friends, and that lasted about like 3 weeks before it disappeared. And went and started, our summer training in 2003, I guess it was, and graduated with a econ degree in 2007 from the academy, and commissioned straight into. I was a Patriot missile guy, so air defense artillery, and so spent my career down in Fort Bliss, Texas. So, which is in El Paso. So got down there right at the start of the market crash, but I bought a couple of pieces of real estate and had caught the bug. And at that point, though, nobody else would really like lend me any more money after I bought my first two properties. And this is getting into 09, 2010, and did a quick trip overseas and came back, and started to get back into real estate again once I had saved up some more money. And progressively, I got out in 2013 and started working for Ernst & Young as a consultant for them. And at that point, I moved to Chicago, and I started buying real estate progressively ever since. And then I decided to write a couple of children's books over the last couple of years as I started having kids, because I realized that there wasn't a lot of good business books out there as I was reading some of these crappy books to my children. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to, instead of just wishing there was something better, I'm going to just make my own. And that's what I did. So here I am now. I quit my full-time job in November, and I'm a real estate broker in Chicago. I run our property management business here, which oddly enough, I'm partnered with a 07 Naval Academy grad and an 06 Air Force Academy grad. So the name of our company is Beat Coast Guard LLC.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So and I have a cousin who went to the Coast Guard Academy. So I was like, well, if he joins us, then we really got nobody to go after. But yeah, we run a property management investment company here with about 70 units, either owned or under management in Chicago, and a number of other things, Airbnbs and Jacksonville, Nashville, some in Texas, and then some projects going on across other parts of the U.S. Got some land in Montana now I'm working on. So so kind of all over the place. I chased a lot of shiny objects over the last 10 years, and it's led me to a pretty good and exciting life, so I can't complain.
So I've got to ask this most important question I'll be asked today. Is that Montana property anywhere near a river?
Oddly enough, there is a creek that runs on the west side of the property. Okay. It's where the plan is to subdivide this, and it's a 20-acre lot where they're going to do a subdivision and sell off the individual lots. But yeah, there is a small creek on the, nothing exciting, but it does border the west side of our property.
All right. I just asked because I'm a little bit of I'm a bit addicted to fly fishing in Montana. It's some pretty sweet fly fishing water. So
it does.
So we'll have to talk offline. For
sure. This creek is not going to provide that for you, but yeah. I'm with you there.
Yeah. No, and I'm curious, there's a bunch that you said that I just absolutely love. One, I love how you took action to write books because you couldn't find the books that met the need that you were after. And, Stu and I are very much of that same mindset, of that same heart. We're starting a mastermind because the other masterminds didn't meet specifically what we were looking for. So I love that. But before we get into, your more of your story, I'm just curious, as a father, when you said that your dad did things to kind of feed your entrepreneurial bug and got you exposed, I'm curious, what practically did he do? Because as a dad, I'm really trying to to get my kids, expose them to an entrepreneurial lifestyle, expose them to something that a lot of kids just don't really see day to day.
Sure. Yeah. So my father started a business in like the 1950s. He started a bread distribution company at our bakery in our town, and like basically grew this thing pretty large over that time. And I, from a kid, got to work with him directly since I was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years old. I think that was the first bit of it. It was always, go help your father, So like whenever my dad needed something, I was always with him, and so he'd take me to work with him. My brother did it too. I have a brother that's much older. So I spent a lot of time as a kid just around that life of, either going to collect money or going to deliver bread or whatever we were doing. I was usually, my summers were always filled with just, exposure to it. My dad wasn't always the best teacher, I would say. but like I just learned from just watching and being with him. There was never like a good, like, I wouldn't say wasn't a good lesson about stuff, but I watched and learned through kind of just being there and being a part of it. And my dad bought some real estate in our town, and I'd go collect rent with him. I'd go cut the grass at these properties, and so I think just by doing that stuff, I learned what he had did, and he used to always talk about some of the regrets he had too. We drive around town and say, "Oh, I could have bought that building in 1958, for $20,000. Now it's $1 million, And so I picked up on a lot of that stuff, and I always told myself I never really wanted to, look back and like regret not having done certain things, So I think that always taught me a lot too. But yeah, my father was a great father. He passed away late 2020, and but there were so many things that he did teach me indirectly about business and real estate, and most importantly, I think he was always brutally honest, and I think that was always a good business trait to have. Like no matter what happened, he always was honest and had a lot of integrity. So, but yeah, and so I try to get my kids exposure. So like carrying that forward, my kids are really, really young, but I want to get them involved with stuff at an early age and teach them the value of money and the importance of business and always doing the right thing. So I think those are the things that I would carry forward from what my father did for me.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome. I think just like you said, I think there's probably a lot of elements that were brought into that, in not only involving you, but giving you responsibility, empowering you, showing, not treating you like a kid necessarily. I mean, there's an element of treating our kids like kids and
Sure.
Loving on them that way, but also giving them trust and empowering them to be, to just have that, to talk to them like adults somewhat, and to, start giving them those responsibilities, I think is awesome. And then just seeing, you probably got imbued with a bunch of hard work ethic, as well, just in going to do it, practically doing it. So that's awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you. Sorry for your loss, and it sounds like there was an awesome he poured a lot into you over the years, which is an awesome place to be.
For sure. Yeah, he was great. And there was this element too of like a lot of the work happened at night. And, when I got into high school, my friends were out partying all the time. And I spent a lot of time working with them. And so it kind of taught me a lot about like, okay, sometimes you got to sacrifice things if you want to live the life you want to live, and, and provide for your family and all that. And so that was always another great lesson that I picked up on. So.
Well, it sounds like, Dave and I talk about intentionality a lot and taking action. And it sounds to me like a lot of that is just the intentionality of just spending time, and not necessarily like, I have to teach you a lesson on this today. Sure. Right. Like, It's just like, hey, just come hang out, right? Just come spend time with me and just be exposed to these things that I'm doing. And so I think that's something that I'm really trying to kind of incorporate into my daily life, is just having my kids exposed to things that I'm doing. Like have them, maybe listen in on a podcast, put on a podcast in the car, or have them go to, a property with me and have them talk through like budgeting and finance, and just talk to them about stuff, right? Like not necessarily like have to like force a lesson out of it. And I was actually just finished a book called The Family Board Meeting, which I highly recommend for any parent to read. And it's just that, like, hey, putting something on the calendar and spending like a block of like 4 hours at a time where you're just like hanging out with your kid, going on, like a date, and he calls it a family board meeting. You're going and doing something fun, but then that just opens up discussion and conversation about things, and kids will ask you questions, and it's just like solid quality time. And there's a huge difference between time and quality time.
Sure.
And so definitely recommend that book. But speaking of books, you decided to write your own books because it was something that you weren't finding. So talk to us about that. Like what was the first kind of inkling of why you decided to write this book, and then how did you go through that process, and what are these books that you wrote?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess it would have been 2019. My wife was pregnant, and we just had her. I think we had our baby shower, and, a lot of people, we said, in lieu of cards, give us a book, and write a message in the book to the kids. And while all the messages and the books were fine, I said there was nothing. I really couldn't find anything that like related to like business or real estate, and nothing that had to be serious. I was like looking for something funny that was related to it, and so I sat down and I thought about it, and I pitched the idea to my wife, and normally she doesn't like most of my ideas, and she was like, "This is kind of an interesting one," and we have a annual dinner. My Ohio partners and I have an annual dinner in New York City because we all kind of live or grew up in that area. So over Christmas we would sit down and just grab dinner, and I brought the idea up, and everyone was laughing about it, and they didn't even have kids, and they were like, "This is great. I think you should do it." And we're like, "Oh, let's think of the letters." And we started literally in my phone, and I opened up a notes page, and we said, A is for this, B is for that, and we made it an ABC book. And so we left with like 3 or 4 letters, and we're just laughing about it. And I got back to my parents' house, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna actually keep doing this. So we went down the list, and my mom ran a daycare out of our house, so she always had children's books around, and we thought through, okay, what makes a good children's book? What and we just started to progressively go down that rabbit hole, and then at some point in time, I realized, okay, I don't know how to take this from like sketchings and writings in my notes to the next level. So I started to reach out to other people that I knew who wrote children's books, and of course, the mastermind of all the best Army Navy pranks, Mike Nemeth, who I think was an '04 grad, great human being. I reached out to him because he had written the Westpoint A to Z book, and it was a children's book about Westpoint terms and beating Navy and all that fun stuff. And so I reached out to him, and dude literally spent like 2 hours with me on a Friday and gave me like the ups and downs. And this was never designed to be like a profit-seeking venture for me. It was just I really wanted to do something cool for my kids, and then put something out in the world that might or may not be helpful for other kids or other parents that wanted to introduce this topic to their children. And Mike sat me down and walked me through all the logistics of what he did and where he went wrong, and I kind of took bits and pieces of that and started to move it forward. So yeah, that was the genesis of it, though. It was the baby shower and then dinner with my friends, and it made me realize, like, okay, maybe this idea isn't so bad. And I said, worst case scenario, I was like, this is something cool I did for my kids to help teach them about money and real estate and all that. And best case, I help some other kids and other families kind of bridge that gap too. So.
And just out of curiosity, has the book been a success?
It depends on how you define success. I would say it's on track. I've sold out both of my first 1,000 orders of each book. So you do batch sizes of 500, 750,000, whatever you wanted. So I had originally ordered 1,000 of the Baby's First Business book was the first that came out, and so that one sold out twice now. And then and so I just keep re-upping. It's going to take a while for any type of profitability to come, right? And then because the margins are so thin on these, and your main sellers through Amazon, and Amazon they pay what they pay.
Takes their cut.
Stuff, right? Yeah. And so they pay what they tell you they're paying. So I would say from that standpoint, it's been a success. The Baby's First Real Estate book, the goal is to always get it launched prior to Christmas, right? Christmas is going to be your big book time selling point. And so we missed the deadline by like a week. So that was like a big, I don't want to say failure, but that was a big hurdle that we didn't cross. And so we're going to see how next year goes, but we're doing well with the real estate book. Baby's First Business book continues to do well though, and sell mostly on Amazon. So that's always exciting. And I got them both in some local bookshops here in Chicago too, which is fun as well. And but yeah, most sales come through Amazon. So yeah, so from that standpoint, I would say it's been successful. Again, it was never designed for me to get rich off of, and I knew that from day one. Everyone's like, oh, if you want to become a millionaire, do not write children's books. That's not the path to it. So.
yeah, but I guess I asked the question. It's kind of a loaded question because I'm a firm believer that when you do something to put value out there, that people are gonna see the value, and there's gonna be reward in that, whether that reward is through satisfaction of knowing you're helping, you're leaving a legacy or whatever, however you measure that success. And I think too many people measure success by, hey, I'm going to be a millionaire. And I think that's that's a very myopic way to look at, success. And so I assume that there'd probably, I didn't realize it sold thousands of copies at this point, but I think that it's, I just think it's awesome that when you take action and it's, agenda free, but you're trying to add value and put value out there, that good things happen with that. And so I think that that's just, obviously this endeavor was something that was very much to add value to others. And so I love hearing that it's going. That's great.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah. It's definitely, the first book was a lot harder to do than the second one, from a process standpoint. But yeah, that 100% though, this was designed, it was something cool I did for my kids. I wanted to help teach them and then, simultaneously put that out in the world. And if people liked it, great. If they didn't like it, I mean, I think I got one review that said they didn't realize it was an actual baby book. And I said, it's like literally in the title. So they gave me a 3-star review on it.
Like trying to get real estate advice from a baby book. That's awesome. I bet you, but they probably learned something, dude. They probably learned something, right?
Yeah. So, but yeah, other than that, I think the feedback's been fairly great. And it's been an exciting process for sure. So.
Now, do you anticipate this is something you're going to continue to do, or is it, this 2 and done, or do you think you want to add more books to the series and continue refining your skills? Well,
it's a great question. The short answer is I don't know yet. The idea was I was going to make one for each of my kids, and we're not going to have any more kids. So there's not going to be a need for a third book from that standpoint. But I have talked to a few people that are like, oh, this is really cool. You should make a series out of this. With other stuff, and I have a couple other ideas. I want, I love promoting the trades and kind of more blue collar work, and those are the businesses I really, really, really like. And so I wanted to make a book about that too, because I think like everyone promoted down this path of like going to college, and which is what we all did, right? But I think there's a a lot of my family is all in the trade business, back home in New York, and either an HVAC or electricians or whatever the case is. And I think that stuff's really cool. So I was going to make like a blue collar baby book or something like that. But I don't know. So short answer is I'm still thinking about ideas, and I write down a lot of stuff as I go through. And there was another idea that I had about like the people, the entrepreneurs who built America, right? Like, thinking about the old timey, the old original Carnegies and the Rockefellers and all that stuff, and making a children's book about that. But I don't know. There's a few ideas brewing, but we'll see. I think for now I gotta focus on getting my business here running smoothly, and then I'll once that's all taken care of, I'll get back to the drawing board a little bit. So.
Yeah, but dude, I love that. I love that because I think when you look at wealth and you look at, entrepreneurship and wealth generation and who's truly wealthy and financially independent, a lot of times you're looking at those blue collar jobs, those skill sets, and they start their own business, they run a small business, and those become profitable. And I think because they're not as sexy as, well, to me, they are. I love it too. I'm a huge fan. But it's not as celebrated. And so I think that's an amazing idea, because I've been telling my kids too, like, hey, you can go to college. I said, the only thing that is a must is you're out of my house or you're paying rent by 18. Like, that's a must. Like that's what's gonna, like, your timeline. And my daughter, she actually doesn't respond poorly to that. Like, people are like, oh, whatever, you'll let your kids back. I'm like, dude, I'm telling my kids from the age that they're like 6 years old that they're going to be out of my house or paying rent by 18. Not in a bad way, because I love them too much to let them freeload. Sure. And so, but that goes in line with, I tell them, hey, you don't have to go to college. You don't have to, I will support you and love you, whatever you do. But there's also this path that is less glorified that can be really, really profitable and very fulfilling. Building a house can be a very fulfilling thing. And a lot of those dudes, a lot of my buddies who are builders, they're not doing too bad.
Right. Absolutely. I have like 6 cousins that are like HVAC own their own HVAC company. I don't know how there's so many HVAC
Awesome.
separate companies, but they're all doing really well. And that was a path they deliberately went down years and years ago. And now they're enjoying the fruits of that labor, after all these years. And then their kids are getting into it now too, which I love. So, I mean, I think I watched my dad and my brother who, co-own the bread business for all these years, like what started off as like a weird idea my dad had in the 50s when nobody else was doing it, like turned into supporting multiple families and multiple other businesses. And so it was, it's kind of great to watch. And I do enjoy all that stuff. And I want to teach my kids that too, that, there isn't just one path to go down, and, go to college, get a good job, whatever the case is. Of course I want what's best for them and want them to do what they want to do. But ultimately, if they choose to go down another path, I think there's a lot of, chance for success. I was working in the consulting world for a long time, and I remember like somebody saying to me like, "Oh, my dad talks about like how he's an engineer and he gets to build stuff all the time." And he's like, "What do you build?" And like, "Oh," like jokingly, like, "Oh, we build PowerPoint decks," and like there's nothing exciting about that or fulfilling about that whatsoever. And I always remember like saying to myself, like, God, I can't wait to get out of this life and be able to just touch and feel things and do stuff with my hands and get more fulfillment out of my life. And that's what I'm trying to do now. So
That's good, dude. I love that. What's the host of that show, Dirty Jobs?
Mike Rowe.
Mike Rowe. I could see Andrew and Mike Rowe partnering up to do some kids books on running dirty jobs.
Love it.
That'd be pretty rad, right? We actually had another guest on our show, Prince Dykes. He wrote some children's books. And he partnered with the Boys and Girls Club, and he's getting the books into the Boys and Girls Clubs. He started here in Denver and partnered with NFL football players on the Denver Broncos, and like it's like really really been cool to watch the success in that. Just teach financial education to children. So cool, man. I love the idea too, man. It's super cool. But hey, speaking of jobs, like you just said, you quit your job, right? You quit your W-2 job. So what was that like? Like what got you to that point to make the decision to quit it? Was it a certain number that you were making on your real estate stuff, or what did that look like?
Yeah, I think it was multiple factors. I've been talking about it for a long time. And, my kids were born over the last couple of years, and I took some time off for paternity leave, which was fantastic. And, kind of one of those great benefits that you don't really always get as an entrepreneur. But it gave me a lot of time to reflect on like what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. And I used to travel 48 weeks a year for my other job. And like, that was pre-kids for the most part. My daughter got exposure to that for like probably the first year of her life. But then COVID hit. I didn't travel for a couple months, and then they started making me drive to Kentucky every week, which was odd. And even harder than like the flying and being gone the 4 days a week. So, I knew that I didn't want to be away from my kids and my wife any longer, at some point. And I said to myself, okay, there has to be a pendulum that tips to one side, and I think the idea was once my side stuff started to outweigh my day job, then I would likely, get ready to quit. And it was always a mental hurdle more than a physical hurdle, right? We had enough money saved up where we had some runway. If we wanted to, quit and if I, fell on my face and didn't sell any real estate or had no income coming in, we'd have at least a little bit of runway to get us through it. My wife's got a great job working for the VA too. So I milk off of her benefits, which is, a very, very big luxury to have in the entrepreneur space when you don't have, cause you don't realize this, but like, healthcare and dental and everything costs so much more money as an entrepreneur. It's like, oh, go follow the American dream. Like, oh, by the way, like you're going to pay twice or three times the amount for insurance as you would working for an employer. So we're very lucky from that standpoint that I was able to keep all my healthcare and on the same schedule because of my wife. But in 2021. My real estate sales finally exceeded my day job salary wise. So it was one of those things where it's like, okay, now it feels like the right time to make this jump. Of course, it was a crazy market, everywhere. So, but the way I looked at it was like, I really only supported friends and family from that standpoint for years and years. I never did any advertising. And, if I did all this during this crazy time with just friends and family, then I could probably repeat this, if I actually put some effort into it, and actual marketing. And so, so I took a leap. I also got sick last year. I got COVID, and I started having breathing problems. And I didn't really think nothing of it. I just thought maybe this was a weird side effect of COVID. And I don't know if the two are related, but I ended up going to the doctor to check on my back one day, and I was telling him about this breathing problem that persisted, and they ended up giving me a CT scan, and they found some abnormalities in my lungs. We just finally got it all figured it out recently, but it was another reason why I was like, okay, I want to spend more time with my family, and so that would kind of help precipitate or kind of further along the process. And I said, okay, let's get this going, let's get this started, and jumped right into it. And I gave work my 2-week notice, and I haven't looked back since. And it's been busy, but every morning I eat breakfast with my kids, and every night I eat dinner with my kids and my wife. So that was one of my goals, and I get to spend as much time as possible with them, and kind of help develop them. So that's the exciting part of it all.
Yeah, it's interesting because about 6 months ago, I had my change of command. I came to Colorado. I had moved my family back here, 6 months prior, just so the kids could start school. And I have 3 kids, so if you want to write 3 more books and just dedicate to my kids, that's 2 more books on your docket. But
awesome.
But I it's really interesting because I've kind of come to this point where this entrepreneurial thing that we're doing has to work, because I've gotten I didn't realize how much I would love making my kids breakfast every morning. And I didn't realize how much I would love being available to make dinner at night, and to dinner was always something that, it was pretty consistent, but maybe we're having it at 6 or 7 at night because I was, coming home late, but it just, I've gotten so, and I say so used to, it's not a used to thing because I like to sleep in and all that. It's a love thing. Like, I love the schedule of being able to, coach my kids' sports. I never experienced that. And now I'm, coaching flag football. And so I think this prioritization and getting past this mental hurdle of, man, what if, or can I, I think if we really took an assessment, most people listening took an assessment, you realize, okay, I'm a relatively capable individual. I'm willing to work hard. I'm honest, and I want to bring value. Well, if you take those things and kind of package them up and figure out how you can provide value, I think the other stuff will kind of work itself out. You know what I mean? I mean, you have to be willing to work hard. There's going to be times that you're going to be working on the weekend, or, that you're having to crush it. But for the most part, I think there's this opportunity, and I think people just need to taste it.
Yeah.
And once they taste it, if you truly are, your desire is to spend time with your family and to get this time element, you'll also realize, the whole millionaire concept. I'm like, Dad, I don't care about being a millionaire. I just want my bills paid and have financial freedom to hang out with my kids. That bar is way lower than being a millionaire, whatever importance that has.
For sure.
And so I love how you highlighted that, once you never look back. I love that. That was going to be my question. Hey, have you had a single day of regret? But you hit that, right? You said you haven't even looked back, but this time concept, and just the ability to taste it, jump into it, and then make it work. And I love how you highlighted that you're doing that. And how's that going? I mean, how's it, have you felt, I know you're enjoying it, but has the stress, has all that kind of stuff dissipated, and you're seeing a clear path?
Yeah. So, I'd say for the most part, you're 100% right. I always say to myself, if I keep my head down, keep working hard, the money's going to come eventually, and even if it's not at first. And so far, everything's going well. I will say that there's 2 things that I've learned being an entrepreneur. One, it's kind of lonely sometimes, right? I don't have a team here like I used to at my old job, and I didn't have a back office support to provide me with stuff. I'm running everything, right? So And then you don't realize how hard some of those little things are and how time consuming they are. I'm like, all right, I'm going to run a marketing campaign and get some flyers printed out and mailed out. Like, I had to do everything. And like, I was like, this is way more work than I thought it was going to be. So you don't realize how like little about some of that stuff until you have to do it. And like there's a lot of trial and error. And so I'm learning a ton as I go throughout this process, and I'm failing. I'm kind of relearning and reinventing the steps of the process. So I think the loneliness factor, bothered me, but it was something that I wasn't used to at first, and then now it's getting better to the point where like, we're building a team now. We have we onboarded our first remote employee 4 weeks ago, and she's doing great. And we're getting our first full-time local employee next week to help with the property management stuff. And what I'm realizing too is that like a lot of things I was doing by myself weren't always the best use of my time and money, or time and skill sets, right? So now we're gonna get a guy in the ground that's gonna handle the $10 and $20 and $50 an hour tasks, and I'm gonna focus on the $100 and $1,000 an hour tasks. And so I think once I start doing some of those things, the things that I'm better suited for, I'm gonna be a lot happier and more fulfilled, I'd say, and then less lonely too, that I got somebody working with me. And it was tough because like we were furnishing some rentals here, and I remember like lugging a mattress up to the third floor of this unit like by myself, and granted, like I probably should have like just hired someone to do this, but like I was doing everything for a while, and it was, some of it was intentional, and some of it was like everybody that I knew that would help or hire was like not available during those times. And but I'm probably better off spending my time finding new property management clients, raising capital, finding deals. We're buying 5 to 20 unit apartment buildings here in Chicago, and we're doing our first like real, I want to say a flip, but we're buying two 6 units right next to each other, and doing full gut rehabs on all the units in the building. So like that's going to be a big project to overlook. But anyway, the more
come on, man, it's post-COVID and it's Chicago. There's no deals to be had there, right? Yeah. There's nothing. There's no opportunity there.
No, none whatsoever. So we're, I want to spend my time now more focusing on those big dollar an hour items, and I think that's where I was lacking the last 6 months or so. It was just I was trying to do everything, and you realize it's like, okay, got to outsource whenever possible for those smaller tasks, and I'm never going to know how everything works, so stop trying to like control all that and focus on what I'm good at. So
it's a great lesson learned, man. One thing that I kind of had to figure out the hard way over kind of these last 6 months of transition from military to civilian is, in the military world and even probably the corporate America world, like your schedule is fairly kind of created for you, right? Like there's a show up time, there's a depart time, there's meetings set, and everything is kind of scheduled for you, if you will. Sure. So you have kind of time blocks where you're going to do certain things. Well, as an entrepreneur, like, dude, you could work from 4 a.m. until, 8 p.m., 10 p.m. at night if you wanted to. And you got to like be disciplined enough to be like, nope, this is my time block for work. This is my time block for meetings. And this is my time block for kids. And I'm going to set that and like stick to it. And I found myself like breaking my own rule. Like, no, I got some work to do. I'm going to squeeze into family time a little bit. And you had to really be disciplined of time blocking when work is, and when family time is, and when PT time is, and like you can quickly get away from that if you're not disciplined enough. And so that's hard, man. That's hard going from corporate America, W-2 military life to now, hey, I'm all on my own. I got to make sure I'm scheduling it, for what's priority. So
yeah, and I what's funny? I think Stu, you posted something about this a few years ago where from 5 to 8 or something at night, you would put your phone away and just have that intentional focus time with your kids. And I try to do that now when my kids get home. I cook them dinner, and I try. Yeah, my wife will tell me that I'm not the best at it, but I try to be intentional about not picking up the phone.
Yeah.
Normally there's never really an emergency, and I got to always remind myself that like everything could wait till 8 p.m. or the next day, even in most cases. I found this has been one of my other hard struggles with all of this is when the timing is not set for you, and the military was always great with that. Like you didn't always have to be disciplined. They made you disciplined. You know what I mean? Like that. When you get out and there's like, oh, I don't have to do PT this morning. I don't have to wake up at 6 if I don't want to, or I can work 20 hours a day if I whatever the drive was. You gotta be very intentional about your time. And so I've definitely struggled with that a lot too, and I'm getting better at separating some time with the kids, putting the phone down. In the property management world, I would say it's like one of the most challenge. I have a lot more respect now for property managers now, having done it. I used to beat these guys up so badly with my other long distance properties, and I never knew how much work goes into this, and and sometimes how needy tenants can be, and so I'm realizing too that like it's okay to put the phone away for 3-6 hours, whatever, and get to it when you get to it, and everyone's gonna figure things out, and there's never really like, unless something's burning down, like there's no real emergencies at that point. And so anyway, another lesson that I'm really I'm still working on, but finding that it's been a challenge as an entrepreneur for sure.
Me too, man. Like I'm not good at it either. Yeah, I posted that. That's like my goal, but dude, I'm nowhere there either yet. Like, yeah,
I'm just trying to be like you, Stu.
No, man. I got a long way to go too, dude. I promise.
Well, dude, I'll tell you, there's also an element of giving yourself permission too, right? Like, I think it's interesting for me. It's more of a mindset that it's not just that everything's not an emergency, or not everything is urgent, or all those things are all true, and telling yourself that is super important. But I think it's also, for me, it's like, okay, if I'm not, and Stu will tell you, like my family is kind of a ridiculous go family, right? Like I have to be outside, like we have to be outside, we have to be with, like I have to be with people. I get so much energy from that, but it's like, if my kids aren't out of the house, dude, rainy days are rough for us. I thank God for rainy days and makes grass grow, but dude, I'll tell you, it is rough in our house because my family's just super energetic, and we have to be outside to just burn just pure energy. And, I always joke, my 9-year-old boy is like, dude eats more than 2 men, and he's got no fat. Dude is just a ball of muscle, but with that just comes like this constant, energy that has to be dissipated somehow. And it can't be in my house because the walls will break. But the point to that is, like, I think I have to tell myself, hey, dude, it's yes, it's ingrained, this 8-hour workday, or all this stuff, all these, these things we tell ourselves, especially, in the military, the wake up time, and the, be done with work time and all that kind of stuff. But to give yourself permission to be like, look, I can be extremely productive in a 4-hour workday, or whatever that, whatever you set, and just to be focused and productive in that time. And that's okay. It's okay to, even when I went to that movie last night, we're telling you, I went to, my wife and I went to watch Top Gun. I mean, it didn't even start till like 8 o'clock at night, but I was sitting there and I'm like, what, for the first probably half hour, I was like, I felt a little bit of, anxiety, like, okay, what should I be doing what should I be preparing for tomorrow? And that's just the wrong place to be, man. I think part of it is up here, just saying, dude, it's okay. You can watch a movie, you can enjoy yourself, you can enjoy your kids, like you could turn it off.
It's so true though, and I think that anxiety is what sometimes makes people successful, but it's something that to be worked on to be able to turn it off. I find same situation. I find myself where I watched an episode of Stranger Things last night with my wife. We love Stranger Things, and I remember saying to myself, like, I was thinking to myself, like, there's definitely more productive things I could be doing right now than sitting on the couch watching this. And you're absolutely right though. You almost have to give yourself permission to do it. just so you can have that mental health and unwind and not, not have to be thinking about all those things constantly. And I remember that was a hard thing. I remember everyone talking about meditation. And I was like, let me try this out. So I remember sitting there for 5 minutes and I'm thinking, and all I could think about during my 5 minutes of meditating was, God, I have all this work I have to do. Yeah. And I'm sitting here just, thinking to myself,
Dude,
and that's all
true.
I can think about. And so that hasn't stuck with me yet, but I think that's one of the things I need to really work on is like just being able to turn it off when I need to. And for a while I didn't have the processes in place to turn things off though too. And now that, when you start bringing on employees, it's always a hard process at first, right? You got to train them, you got to teach them everything. But I think once you get through those first couple of weeks or first couple of months, those hurdles, you start to unload things to them. And now I'm like, all my admin stuff's getting taken care of by my virtual assistant. And I'm like, I haven't wrote a lease in 2 weeks. And like, that's kind of like relieving. Now I can focus on other stuff and actually like, I used to work from 8 to midnight pretty much every night, or 10 to midnight when the kids went down. And now that's starting to slow down a little bit, so I think like we're finally getting more processes in place to be able to help kind of turn that switch off a little bit too. So
well, yeah, and I think we also have to reframe how we look at like time on the couch with our wife. There's a lot of times an ROI is easy to calculate when you're analyzing a real estate deal or whatever, but it's a lot different when you're talking about relationships. And even this, one thing I love about the podcast, and for me, it's doing something else that has it's hard to measure, but it's extremely valuable. So like this time, it to me is like a mentor session for me. It's an opportunity to speak to awesome people. And we are absolutely filled by this podcast that generates absolutely zero income. But it builds us significantly. And I think it just, when you sit down with your wife, there's a relational ROI that's very hard to calculate, but even just holding hands or just enjoying that time together is I would argue is more valuable than especially for me than spreadsheet time. And also just to encourage you, dude, I've given up on meditation, but what I do is I intentionally put myself in situations where those thoughts happen and I'm doing something that feeds me. So like I'll go up to Red Rocks. We have amazing Colorado, beautiful stuff, mountains, and I'll go for a walk in this, in the mountains, and it is equally refreshing and a ton of thoughts happen. And Stu and I do that together. We have business meetings up. We just, went for a hike last week and we're able to really work on a relationship. I beat him running up a mountain. I mean, there's all these elements to it that are,
I think I saw
amazing.
That on Facebook.
Yeah. but it's just cheated. An interesting.
He cheated, dude. He like stopped the time before he got to the finish line.
It's just he's trying to tell himself just because I'm fatter and it doesn't look as athletic when I run. It was a quicker time, but yeah, I just think we give ourselves permission to do these things that we enjoy that also get us in a state of mind that really help us. Because, dude, I've been trying for years and I finally I'm like, this meditation thing, I want to, dude, but I just can't. Like, there's a squirrel in there and it just never stops.
It doesn't stop.
It never stops. That's awesome.
Well, dude, we could probably go on for another hour. There's a lot of business and real estate related stuff that I'd love to get into. You had said something and I wanted to like dive into it, but I know we're on a time schedule. You said you bought a funeral home and are turning it into an Airbnb, which I would love to hear more about. So maybe we'll have to have you come back on and talk again. So
absolutely. Yeah. And we're planning on putting a potentially an Edgar Allan Poe themed bar in the basement of this place, like a little speakeasy. So
nice.
Just to add a little bit of extra complexity and fun to it. So
that's awesome.
Once that gets rolling, we'll definitely have to get back on. We'll have my partner on with you guys just so you can share in your Navy glory, because he's a 04 grad. So
yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Well, dude, this has been a fun conversation. We really appreciate you jumping on. Regardless of you being a Westpoint guy, it's all right. We still like you. But hey, where can people find your books? One and two more, just how they connect with you.
Yeah. So books are on Amazon, Books A Million. You can buy them directly on the publisher's website. Mascot Books was the company that did everything soup to nuts for me. So mascotbooks.com. Baby's First Business book and Baby's First Real Estate book. Amazon is probably the easiest place for people to get them. I'm pretty easy to find. On Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Andrew Dorazio. If anyone wants to email me, it's just andrew.dorazio2007@gmail.com. And I'm always looking to connect with folks and talk. Always raising money for deals, and as you guys know, and so if anybody's looking to place capital and or get into some, I love looking at shiny objects. So if they got any good deals they want to run past me, I'm always looking. So happy to connect with anybody that wants to talk. So
that's awesome, man. We are also always interested in shiny objects. So
the shinier the better.
To a fault.
That's another entrepreneur issue that we got going on too. Is the shiny object syndrome.
We're working on it.
Life.
Hey, Andrew, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your time. Just super stoked to get into these books, reading to my kids. I love that you took action to create something of value that I think, these things, a lot of times I say this to our guests, but we just have amazing people on the show. And I think a lot of the times you're not going to recognize the impact that you make in this lifetime, man. With the book and with the value that you're putting out there and the time you're spending with your kids and what other people are doing with their kids and the generational impact of doing something like a book, I think is incredible, especially a children's book to get into a market that really, our children need, man. Financial literacy is something that will be life-changing for kids, because they're just not getting it.
Yeah.
And most of them aren't getting it from their parents. Yeah. There's never enough, man. And it just, there's a cycle of debt and everything that it literally steals joy in life from people. So the fact that you put something out that helps address that is amazing. So thank you for that, dude.
Of course. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on today. Great catching up with you guys, and let's do this again soon. So
yeah, for sure, man. So guys and gals, go check out Andrew, connect with him. We'll put links to the books in the show notes, all of his social connections there. Hey, if you like this episode, we'd love 5-star reviews on your podcast platform of choice. And hey, go fill your storehouse.
Make it a great day, friends. Thank you. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
Be Navy.
Go Navy. Be an Army.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening to Filling the Storehouse. If you enjoyed our show, please subscribe and share it with someone you love. And if you really felt inspired, leave a 5-star review so we could continue to grow and help other Christian entrepreneurs fill their storehouse. If you're interested in creating financial freedom through real estate investing, be sure to check out our website at storehouse310turnkey.com. We'd love to serve you through our platform of building the kingdom. Just click on the contact link and we'll reply to you as soon as we can. Again, thanks so much for listening. Now go fill your storehouse and make it a great day.